Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps Virtual Reality, Next Pick, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, Tip of the Spear, the Top Hopper, Sports Workbook, Sideline Design. You're the best. I got NFL football players asking me, "Are you selling those cards?" And they want to cut. I mean, it's just y'all are the best. You make me look like I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm an idiot from Route 10. Uh, Sideline Sports Network. Yeah, y'all are the best. Thank you for streaming this. I have my friend, Coach Loren Johnson, on today. And Loren, I listened to your last podcast. We had already planned to do this podcast. And I learned something about you that I didn't know. I didn't know that you had lost your mom and your stepmom. I knew you were from Miramar. And the best coaches in the world, like, it's like a head fake. Like, they're coaching and teaching football, but really they're teaching more. Like, I know you have your core values for your program, and we have ours at Bird and with this podcast. And they're like, we want to change lives. All right, we want to help get people to the next level, whatever that means. And then we want to build champions for life. So, Loren, we got a long history. We're going to put it all out there today. This has never been done before.
All right.
We just played in the regional championship, man. That was freaking fun, man. Uh, Loren, tell everybody a little bit about where you're from. And thank you for coming on, man.
Well, first of all, Troy, thank you for having me, man. Like you said, it's been playing for a while, everybody. So we just kind of piggyback and riding the coattail of the last podcast, man, from Ball VA. But
and I love Larry. Larry's the man, dude. Ball
VA
is
all. He does a great job. So Troy, thank you for having me. Thank you for just asking me to be on. And man, we just gonna talk today. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, born and raised. Went to Miramar High School. Son of Lee and Barbara Johnson, older brother. And then like I said in the podcast with those guys, life happens, right? My mom and dad decide, hey, this is not the greatest thing for them to be together. But my dad stays in the area. He's still a major part of my life. And then my mother passed away when I was 10 years old. And my brother and I hope my brother's watching, or my dad's watching. My brother and I had a conversation here recently about where our lives could have gone, if we lived in a different area or did something different, or we were some, different people. But my dad kind of stepped up to the plate, just being a dad, doing the things that were necessary for him to do, and just invested in his kids. And him and my wife and I had that same conversation this morning. Like we invest a lot in our kids, but I think we know where we got it from. Her dad, mom did that. My dad and mom did that in us as well. Then my dad remarried, had a stepmom who was an elementary education principal. She had a daughter that became my sister, that became my mom again. So I'm very fortunate to have two mothers. Very fortunate to have a sister added to my life later on. And then, the family just kind of grew from there. I had the opportunity, of course, play football at Virginia Tech.
How did you get to Virginia Tech?
Oh, man. So there's a lot to it, man. My high school football coach, Mark Gondola, who's still in South Florida. My, guy that coached quarterbacks, Ira Kaminsky, was like my biology teacher and kind of worked with me. Those guys they just laid a foundation, man, that was undeniable, right? And I think the one thing I was able to channel my frustration and my anger about anything that was going on in life in the right direction, man. I channeled it to football. So if I was upset in the house, my stepmom asked me to do something, it was football. When it stopped raining in South Florida, I was on the football field. If it was an opportunity to jog to the field, I jogged to the field. My mentor, Dwayne Joseph, he works for the Las Vegas Raiders. He spent a lot of time pouring into me. My older brother, who taught me football, Jermaine, that's the culture of our environment, our neighborhood. Man. It was like, hey, football is what it is. So everything that I did was towards football. Everything else was a byproduct. Run track for football. Try to play baseball for football. Try to wrestle for football. Like everything was for football. So, you know, I had the opportunity, man, late in my career, just play some good football. I played with some great guys that went on to the NFL, did a lot of great things. But, you know, it was just one of those situations, man. Hey, just work hard, work extremely hard, get better at your craft, learn little tidbits. And that opportunity to be recruited by Frank Beamer and his staff. And I chose Virginia Tech over Indiana, West Virginia, NC State, Oklahoma. Those were my 5 official visits at the time. You could only take 5. So that was the 5 I took. And I took unofficials to other places, man. But, you know, it really came down to Indiana, Virginia Tech. And then Virginia Tech had beat Indiana, Independence Bowl. My visit Virginia Tech went really well. There was a little bit of a hiccup with my NC State visit, and Todd Grantham kind of took over. And I was in Blacksburg December 18th, 1994. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I just felt I was at home. Torian Gray, who was at South Carolina, he hosted me. Sean Sullivan, he was a tight end from Palm Beach. You know, there was a lot of Florida boys there at the time. Cornelius White, who's from Pennsylvania. You know, those guys kind of embraced me and taught me what it was to be a Hokie. And I enjoyed it, man, from every aspect of J.C. Price taking care of me, you know, Waverly Jackson, guys that were older than me, Antonio Banks. I can go down the list, man. They just made me feel like I was at home at all times. And it was a great experience for me. And that's how I got to the state of Virginia. When I met my wife, it was, let's move halfway between Connecticut and Miami. That's where my wife's from. That would have put us in South Carolina, but we never made it. You know, we just stayed in Virginia. Had the opportunity to coach very early, be a head coach at the age of 23.
I want to ask you about Miami, because I just had the head coach from Cardinal Gibbons.
All right.
I mean, y'all talked about it on the podcast on Ball and VA, and then the Huguenot coaches talked about it. I mean, the recruiting, the allegations. And I asked the guy from Cardinal Gibbons, where do you think that started? And he said it started in the rec ball in South Florida. I mean, it's y'all the originators. I mean, the year-round football, the full pads all the time, the Friday night tykes, the hot weather, the only way out of here, Broward and Dade and Palm Beach County is football. The state of Miami with Howard Schnellenberger.
Yeah.
I mean, South Florida is the Mecca. No disrespect to anyone else.
Right.
Okay. But talk about that, man. Being from that place and why is it so special? No disrespect to Virginia or Texas or anybody else.
No disrespect to anybody. I think for me, just being from there, it's just a way of life. It's what you taught very early. I think I put on pads the first time at 4 years old. They were my brother's pads, right? They were my brother's pads. And during the summertime, when my dad was at work, my mom was at work, you know, we got our games in against guys across the street or guys in a different part of the neighborhood. So if you didn't live on our specific block, you were the opponent, right? So you can only imagine in a neighborhood with 40 or 50 little boys that all love football or played football to some extent or some level, you know, the games got really competitive, you know, just like any other neighborhood. Tag in the street, tackle in the grass. Like we did it on a regular basis. You avoid the cars that are coming down the street. You avoid the cars that are parked in the neighborhood. You know, you can't run out at 10 yards because there's a Cutlass Supreme sitting on the side of the house. You know, just little things like that, man, that you had to be aware of. But it was the way of life. And it was way before me. Like getting out, trying to get out of South Florida was way before me. And I tell people all the time, it was never my goal to go back home and live. You know, it's South Florida. It's not a great place to visit. But for me, I wanted something different. I wanted to see something different. So getting out was great. It was a great opportunity for me. But I also like going back home. Oh, my light's going to go off. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
This happens on a regular basis. Sorry about that.
That's all good, man. It happens to me all the time. Yeah. Like, listening to the other podcast, you made a point. You said that the first Black football coach you ever played for was when you went to Virginia Tech. And I had a coach earlier this year tell me, say, Troy, you know, I've taken this new job and I've been at 2 other places, and these kids, JT inspires, man, football was our equilibrium. That's a big word for me, man. Loren can use all those words. I can't. To life in South Florida. JT inspires. Thank you, man. It's a blessing to have Coach Johnson on. But I had a coach tell me, like, Coach, I had a kid, the guy goes, I had a kid tell me that I was trying to change him, that I didn't look like him, and like they were going to do it their way. I was like, huh? Like, so it ain't all about what you look like.
No.
Like you said, you never had a black coach until you went to Virginia Tech. So talk about that, man.
I mean, it was just, it was the guys that were engaged, and it was the guys that really wanted to help. You know, Coach Olsen, Tommy Conicella, like these guys, man. If I, you know, talk about these guys and what they did for me, like all the Coach Snyder. I mean, those are guys that coached me in Little League, coached my brother in Little League. I just was in a part of South Florida when I played Little League football that didn't have African-American males. Now, there were some places like the boys clubs, you know, Scott Park, you know, Risco Park, like some of those guys, they did have that opportunity. But for me, I didn't. And that was more so where my dad lived, where I lived, you know what I mean, during that period of time where I was growing up. So it was kind of a situation where I didn't have that. And then when I got to high school, you know, my high school coach, man, was from Beaver Dam. You know what I mean? Beaver Dam, Pennsylvania. So, you know, it was just kind of a different deal. And that's how I grew up. And those are the people that he associated with. But they treated me as such, you know, to where I could be groomed and where I could learn a lot of football. And the football that I know now is based on what those guys taught me. And then when I had a position coach in college that looked like me, there was a little bit of friction at first, just because, you know, he was asking me to do things that, not that I wasn't necessarily uncomfortable with, but just because it was on a higher level. And he expected so much more of us, of myself, Keon Carpenter, Pearson Prelude. You know what I mean? He just wanted it. He wanted more.
Farm Legacy, the GOAT.
Yeah.
We got the GOAT.
Far from the GOAT, man. Far from the GOAT. I appreciate it, but far from the GOAT. You know what I mean? Just a guy trying to get better. You know what I'm saying? And work hard. But
yes. So
that's kind of where it was. That's kind of where it was, man. So I relished that. I embraced it. And I know how to grow more as a man. I grew more as a man going through that entire process.
How close does your program at Highland Springs look and operate compared to what y'all did at Miramar? Because we're going to talk about everything, man. We're going to
go That's good. They look, the schools are mirror images. They're mirror images.
I mean, yeah.
You know, I'm going to tell you this. What's my man? I can't think. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp went to my high school.
Wow, I like Johnny Depp, man. He's smart.
He didn't graduate from there, but he went there for a short period of time.
He didn't have to graduate, man. He was in Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Dean Biasucci, the kicker for the Indianapolis Colts years and years ago. He went to my high school. So that's my high school looked like that. You know.
Hey, Brennan.
It was mixed.
Is this the corner? Is this the corner?
No, that's the linebacker.
It's the inside backer. Yeah. Hey, man, what's up, man? Glad I ain't got to try to run ISO with you no more. Kim Johnson, the best coach in Virginia.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
That's the wife. Now you got the family on here. That's the wife.
Yeah. Then we got Scraps on here. We got all kinds of people commenting. Look at it. There's a quarterback. Quarterback. What's up, quarterback?
Yeah. So
they're the best in the state. Deuce. Man, everybody got upset because I said that Billy Mills was the best coach in Virginia. I mean, heck, we started with the best coach in Virginia, and I'm ending with the best coach in Virginia.
Sorry,
I mean, this right here is the end of season 1 right here, man.
Billy
the only way I'll do another show is Anthony Munoz and McNally. Yeah. So, dude, I started with the best, and I'm ending with the best.
Hey, we appreciate it. Billy Mills is a great guy, man. Billy's a good guy.
Heck
good
football coach. And we're all competitors.
That's correct.
We'll get into that because we're gonna talk about everything. Yeah. All right. So how your coach ran his program in high school? How close is it to what you do today?
Same philosophy, same rules. It's nothing changes, man. You know what I mean? Like I tell the kids, we had a conversation this morning after the lift. That I've been in it long enough now that I can see where we cannot go and things that we cannot do, right? Things we got to talk about. So
like what was it today? What was it today?
Just communication, how you talk to each other. I mean, that's important in every aspect of life, right?
Yes.
If I'm talking to Troy one way off the field, I can't expect to talk to him a different way on the field, and then for him to respond to me the same way You know what I mean? Like what you give is what you get. And we try to explain that to the kids on a regular basis that, you got to be mindful of what you say. In the book of Proverbs, Bible, hey man, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what you say to somebody can build them up or tear them down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll say it, I'll throw it out there. So, and I said this to the kids today, again, full transparency. When you called me a couple weeks ago to talk about being on the podcast and we talking about a particular issue, I was at my daughter's track meet. And she didn't particularly perform the way that we knew she could. Right? So as a father, if I say, hey, you did a poor job, or, it's too hot, I don't want to be out here. If my tone or my talking or my tongue talks down on her or belittles her and doesn't lift her up in one of her hard times, she doesn't come back and, place fourth in the AAU championships in the 1500 this weekend, right? With my wife, like my wife spends a lot of time with my daughter, just like getting her to track practice, pushing her through track practice, making her the young lady that she needs to be. If my wife doesn't do that, or my wife talks bad to her, then she may not respond the way that she responded this weekend. So we're telling the kids, like on a regular basis, man, what you say is powerful. Well, yes. Coach G used to tell
words
us
have meaning.
I mean, Coach G used to tell us that all the time. That means like be positive in your talk, like be encouraging in your talk. Say the right things to your teammate. You don't know what your teammate is going through, what they went through, what's going on at the house, right behind closed doors. So like be understanding of what's going on. Show some empathy. You know what I mean?
Great word.
And I think young people have a hard time doing that because they don't talk anymore. Me and Coach Saunders was talking about that earlier today. Like kids can hide behind their cell phones and they don't communicate verbally with each other. Their eyebrows don't lift up on their head. They don't use their hands and communicate and talk anymore. Everything is, based on what you can say in 160 characters or what you send in a text. So we want to get away from that so we can kind of build some communication and some camaraderie with each other. My head football coach was a bigger, faster, stronger guy, BFS.
Yeah, great system.
There you go. So they
still works today.
They used to have this book called Being 11. And being 11 was being one more than a 10, right? So you could be a perfect 10 or you could be an 11. So we used to go through that book, month after month, like read it over and over. And they were great passages. So he would give me BFS passages. He would make copies of them, pass them out. We would read them, and then we would talk about them. We do that same thing at Highland Springs now because the communication part it lacks in society right now, and we want to be a little bit different than that. So that's one thing that we do. I think we're gonna be disciplined. We're gonna be disciplined. We have to be.
What does that mean? Because some people think punishment is discipline, and a disciplined team, you ain't got to worry about them doing something stupid. A disciplined person, you ain't got to worry about them. Getting kicked out of the game.
The biggest part of the game right now is trash talk. That's everybody wants to trash talk, right? But the biggest trash talk is when you point to the scoreboard. The biggest trash talk is when you win the ball game.
Yes.
The biggest trash talk is when you make a solid tackle. Those are things that I learned in high school. And believe me, coming from South Florida, you gotta be able to talk. If that's not a part, but even like I heard Dion say it recently, I never talked to anybody else. I just talk to myself, right? And self-talk might be the best talk that you can give yourself on the game of football. Because when you're out there on that island in his position, you're playing against a defensive end that can pass rush, that got great ball get off. If you line up against a fullback that's 220 and you're 150, like you got to be able to talk yourself through that because it's a reckless game. So it's a lot of collisions out there, and you got to be able to do that on a regular basis. So being disciplined is having self-control, like doing things over and over and over again. You know it, Troy. You put it in a play, you install a play. You got to run it 35 times and run it once correctly in a game. And that's discipline. It might not be the same way in every sport, right? It may not be the same mundane thing over and over and over again. We had a great athlete in our building tell us, I don't play football anymore because it was boring. And for some kids, it might be boring. When it's hot, it's boring. You're going through plays over and over and over again. There's nothing different. The ball doesn't bounce off the rim a different way. The defense doesn't change as often. It might get boring to you, but you got to be able to execute. And the team that breaks first is usually the team that loses first. And you may not lose the game, but you might lose a play that may affect you later on in life. So this is one of those things, man, where discipline is probably the key ingredient to any successful recipe. And I think you got to live by it. And if you don't, it becomes difficult. For us, we do a lot of little different things. The color of our socks got to be the same. Your knee pads got to be over your knees. Your visors got to be clear. Those are rules that are put in place that I didn't have to abide by, right? Since I didn't have to abide by them, my shield was red. My socks are red, white, and blue for the team school colors. My gloves are red. But the rule says now, you know what I mean? Can't have color visors, and your shirt's got to be pulled down, and your knee pads got to be over your knees. That's being disciplined. It's not that I don't like it. I love it. I love having swag on the field. But if the rule says pull your jersey over your back flap, then pull your jersey over your back flap. That's the rule. That's not my rule. I wouldn't have done it. I like to show my stomach when I was 15, 16. I don't show it now, right, at 45, but I showed it at 15 and 16. I used to wear neck roll, when I played football. I wanted, my face mask with tape all over it. I had the red shield to match my red helmet, but that's not the rule anymore. The rule says you can't do it. You can't wear eye black with sayings on it anymore. Football has changed, and as it evolves, you have to evolve with it and be disciplined in that concept.
Yeah, so you go to Virginia Tech,
and
you play for Hall of Fame coach Frank Beamer and Hall of Fame coach Bud Foster. Toriano Gray, he played with you, correct?
Torian Gray.
Torian Gray, and then who was your DB coach?
Lou West.
West. Wow. So talk about playing for those guys and the impact that they had. And what was it? I mean, somebody asked me the other day, like, what was the difference between UVA and Virginia Tech when I was a kid? And it was like George Welsh and Frank Beamer. Like, it was the same coach for 20 years. And it was just, they were awesome, man. I mean, they're both Hall of Fame coaches.
Absolutely.
But what was that like to play for those guys?
You gotta back up before you even get to the coaches. The guys that I ran into were the seniors in the program. Mike Gentry.
Yes.
Right. So Coach Beamer was a great evaluator of talent, or he had coaches that were great evaluators of talent. And what they did was they found guys that fit their system, not guys that were. I'm pretty sure they might have wanted guys that were 6'6", 250 coming off the edge, or whatever the situation. Your prototypical guy. They probably wanted that, but where Virginia Tech was at that point in time, they got guys that fit the system. So I can remember having a conversation with a guy named Jermaine Holmes. He played wide receiver, caught the winning touchdown against UVA in 1995 on our way to the Sugar Bowl. Jermaine was from Tampa, Florida. And I was there for the spring game. My dad flew me up for the spring game. I went by myself. That's when you can get on a plane at 17, 18 by yourself. No helicopter parents in my house. Like, my dad was like, go, you got it, right? So they picked me up from the airport. I get there. I get to the spring walkthrough. It was the day before the spring game. And I remember somebody asking me, you think you can cover this guy? I said, man, I can cover any guy that you put out there. That's my thought process coming from South Florida. And Jermaine Holmes put me to the side and said, man, keep your mouth shut and keep your head down and work. And he said some other choice words. And he said, I'm going to show you when the season started, right? So they kind of put everything in line the way it was supposed to be. Now, I still was a competitor and I still wanted to play. I started 46 out of 48 games or something in the 40s out of 48 games in my career. But I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn fast, and I learned it from the players. You know what I mean? Bud Foster gave us the scheme, and I was football savvy because I had a mentor that taught me a lot about college football. My dad, my brother, my mom, my stepmom, my sister taught me a lot about life. The environment, the culture taught me, how to survive and navigate through football. So I was pretty good when I got there, but Bud Foster kind of taught the intricate details. You know what I mean? Coach Beamer taught you how to be respectful of the game and how to be respectful of people. He would always say, treat people the way you want to be treated, right? If you want people to respect, then you got to treat them with respect, right? And he would always say, invest in the game, and the game will reward you on the back end. I remember him saying that to me. I didn't understand what it meant when I first got there, but I understood later on. Like what you put into it is what you're gonna get out of it. You know, I say that a lot, but it's true. If you work extremely hard at the game is going to reward you in the end. And you got to be patient. You know what I mean? That's what I learned. Patience is everything. I remember being 0-2 in '95. We lost to Boston College on a Thursday night. We lost to Cincinnati on my birthday in 1995, September 16th. And I remember Jim Barron, a football player, not a coach, a football player, saying we're not going to lose another game. And we went 10-2, right? And then that's kind of, you know, the start of Virginia Tech football. But to what the younger people know it is now. Now, there was some other great
Jim Druckenmiller was the quarterback.
Jim Druckenmiller was the quarterback. Ken Oxendown that played at Thomasdale was the running back.
Player. Great, better person.
Yeah. I mean, Marcus Parker that played at Salem High School in Virginia was another running back. You know, we just had phenomenal guys. Waverly Jackson, you know, he's from down South Hill. Yep. You know, you kind of Jim Bank. Hank Coleman played at With. Brian Steele played at Huguenot. You know what I mean? These are guys that I didn't know anything about when I got there.
Talent. Homegrown.
I mean, they did a phenomenal job of telling you what it was. And I didn't understand UVA and Virginia Tech until I got to the UVA Virginia Tech game, right? Before the end of the season. You know what I mean? Then I understood the camaraderie, the rivalry, you know what I mean? The trash talk. I understood all of it then. But, you know, you asked me what I learned from those guys. You know, again, patience, hard work, dedication to the program, treating people right. That's what I learned from Coach Beamer. The football I learned from the players. And Bud Foster put us in the right position to be successful. You know what I mean? And he did a very good job during his tenure, just studying the game and being able to explain the game to us. And there was another guy that was there, Rod Sharpless, Coach Sharpless. He was another guy that was there that coached the outside linebackers or the Rovers and the Whips at that time. Bud did the inside, Todd Grantham did the defensive line, and Lou West did the secondary. I mean, we learned a lot, but they treated us like human beings. They talked to us like human beings, man. And it was fun to play for them. They expected and demanded the best of us, but they put us in position to be successful. And they kind of, you know, they talked to us. They were younger coaches at the time, and they did a phenomenal job explaining to us what we need to do to be successful.
You know, there's that saying that on bad teams, nobody leads. On good teams, the coaches lead. And then on like the elite championship teams, the players lead. And how do you coach your team to do that?
Same thing. We try to bring the seniors in early, or even a small core group, 4 or 5 guys. We do McDonald's pancakes with them, little pancake breakfast. You know, we just bring them in, we sit them down, we talk, we tell them the expectations, you know, what we expect from them. And then we try to branch out and go to a large group of seniors, explain to them. But I think it's something that has to be touched on every day. You know, in the summertime, when you're building your team, you might not have them 8 hours a day. And when you're in school with them, you may not have them 8 hours a day. You might have them 3 hours a day, right? So I think it needs to be talked about and discussed no matter what, Troy. I think you have to spend time on it.
It's nonstop. I mean, it's 24/7. You're constantly communicating your vision and your mission to those players, and then the older guys are communicating it to the younger guys.
Yep.
And I think coaches are doing the same thing.
I think it starts over every single year. And even as I'm talking to you right now, right, I'm learning. So I think it's the same. I think it has to be the same. Like you talked about, my brother is JT Inspires. He said equilibrium, right? So at this point in time of our lives, Troy, we're talking about a lot of different things. You talk about our families. I mentioned that in that podcast with those guys earlier, how important our families are, how much sacrifice they have. I think Puka talked about how much sacrifice the women do. Sorry about this, guys. I'm not sure how to even stop it. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Sorry about that.
I'll talk to the superintendent of Henrico County Public Schools. Coach Johnson deserves to have a light that stays on. I mean, how many more state championships does he have to win before he gets a light that'll stay on?
It's a new building, so they're saving a little bit of energy there, man. But it's all right. It's all right. But I'm learning, and I'm saying to myself right now, even as we talk, like your communication with your spouse, it's gotta evolve year round, like yearly. You understand where I'm coming from? That, like, I'm learning now to say those things. I used to hold that stuff in, but I'm saying it right now, right? So, because that's going to help somebody, right? So if you gotta balance this thing. If I'm spending that much time with my players and talking to them and spending time with them, how much time do I have to spend with my spouse? Like, you know what I mean? Just to kind of keep that thing moving in the right direction. So that's like my learning thing. That's where I'm at right now. What's on my mind? I gotta say it. So every single day we have to evolve as a program. My high school coach used to say, you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same, right? So how do we get better daily? We had a conversation today, man. Like, again, I said it, we talked about it a second ago. Communication is essential in the football program. You got to have it. If you don't, it's not just the communication on the field. It's the communication in the classroom. It's communication, walking through the halls, communication in the neighborhood, and positive communication. Not just talking at each other, but talking with each other, talking to each other, right? Building each other up so you can be successful in that realm. And that's hard with today's kids. So that's kind of, to answer your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, me and you have talked a lot over the years. And I can remember a time when you got the job at Highland Springs, or either, I got the job at Meadowbrook the year after you got the job. I remember you told me, you said, Troy, let's stay friends through all of this.
Got to.
Because some people don't like you because you're a competitor. And I remember you told me up watching a scrimmage, you were with Coach Chilcote, and you said, Troy, you got to communicate with your wife. And now it's my ex-wife. So I must have not taken your advice. But, you've always, and you talked about your dad in the other podcast and how he's like a father figure to your coaches. And everybody wants to talk about the 5 state championships. But, y'all won your first one, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
15,
and you became the head coach in 2008.
That's
at
correct.
Highland Springs. So, and you were the head coach how many years at Stonewall?
5 years at Stonewall.
So there's 12 years there where you were a head coach. And, man, Coach Bedwell won it in his, I think it might have been his 12th year at Byrd. So there was 12 years there where I remember when you were the head coach at Stonewall, you had 2 of the best, maybe 3 of the best tailbacks in the country. So you played at Virginia Tech. You became an assistant at Lord Botetourt, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I know you wanted to play in the NFL, but how did you end up? Because, a lot of people are going to watch this podcast. They're going to say, well, I want to find out how Coach won those 5 state championships. But what about those 12 years before? Like you said, patience.
Let's go timeline. So fall of 98, I finished. Spring of 99, I graduate. Don't get picked up. The last game of my senior career, you can go back and watch it. It's always on ESPN Classic. I hate it. Virginia Tech
playing
loses.
Corner?
Playing corner. Virginia Tech loses to UVA.
Ooh.
I'm having a great game. But I tear my MCL. Okay. So I come back. I'm good enough to play in the bowl game. I play in the bowl game, but you're not good enough to work out for scouts. And I didn't have great workouts. Never got picked up as a free agent or anything. And had the opportunity to go back to graduate school, started in special education. My number one goal was to open my own school one day, right? Want to be a headmaster or a dean or something like that. That's what I wanted to do, open my own school, do it with my philosophy, the way I wanted to do, kind of like some of these charter schools are doing right now. And
that philosophy was based off of the teachings of your dad and
my dad, my
your coaches from high school and what you learned at Virginia Tech?
Absolutely. I just, morals, values, my dad, man, my dad is my hero. Okay. So you lose a wife. Well, they got divorced. They did get divorced, but you lose a wife or the mother of your children.
Yes.
He had a lot going on. That's a whole nother podcast in itself, what my dad was doing, how he's functioning. All right. He grabs both his boys, said, let's get it done. All right. So we get it done. He meets somebody else, married. My dad goes He's had prostate cancer. You know, he's at my games. Like, I can hear him still in my head at high school football games yelling. I could be in a stadium with 60,000 people and I hear my dad and nobody else, right? He's always sacrificed. His major investment in me, it wasn't school clothes. It wasn't school shoes. His investment with me was football. If I wanted my own helmet, Troy, in the 80s, I got it.
Wow.
If I wanted 2 pair of cleats, he bought them. If I had to drive across town, he did it.
So football has always been important.
Oh, well, he never played a sport. My dad's a computer guy. Like, if you got a computer that needs to be fixed, he fixed it, right? If you need to build a computer, he built it. He used to work for Honeywell when computers filled up the entire room, right? Mm-hmm. They were big computers, right? So he was what we would call now a computer geek. But
he's really a math guy. I mean, he's a math guy.
He's a great guy. So
you gotta be, you gotta be smart in math. I mean,
yeah, man. He works on cars, even to this day. Even at 75 years old, he's working on cars, and he's a phenomenal guy. Okay, but he's always said, and I know other people's parents said it, whatever you do, be the best at it. You're gonna be a trash man, be the best trash man. You're gonna clean windows, clean the best windows, right? Whatever you do, be the best. Like, don't ever settle for anything else. And I think that pushed me and drove me, you know what I'm saying, to work extremely hard at whatever I did. But that's kind of what I wanted to do. So you go back, fall of 99, I'm GAing at Virginia Tech. They go to the national championship. I'm helping as a recruiting GA. Man. So I see that.
That was a heck of a night, man.
Yeah, man. I practiced against Michael Vick.
I spent a week that night, Coach. Oh. I had a week that night. Man.
It's a great night, right?
So yeah, y'all didn't win the game, but dude, y'all brought respect to Virginia.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it was a heck of a night, man.
Yeah, so
we partied like it was 1999.
That's what it is. Hey, Prince was way ahead of his time.
Best dad ever. Yeah, I could tell, man. I could tell. I mean, guys like this aren't made without the best dad ever. So JT, yeah.
So I watched that in 1999, and then I get the bug, man. I got the itch. So I start reaching out by myself to arena football teams. Hey, can I come work out? You know, can I come work out? I had Cornelius White was playing for the Carolina Cobras. And he said, hey, man, come on down. You can spend a weekend with me, talk to the coaches, do whatever, see if you can get on. So I think Coach Selinsky was his name. He was there. I handed him a booklet that I made. Spiral, you know, bound it, went to Kinko's, bound it, put pictures, articles, and on the front it said, all I need is a chance, right? All I need is a chance. So I went to practice, had a great practice. I was there for 1 day in practice, 1 day, and NFL Europe called me.
Wow.
1 day, NFL Europe. So I ended up going to NFL Europe. I had to go to DC, get a passport. You know, there was a guy named Charles Tilson who was kind of like helping me in Blacksburg. He gave me a job when I wasn't playing, you know, just GA, and he kind of allowed me to work, make some money, trying to teach me the insurance business. His son lives in Lexington, Virginia. Trey, if you're watching, phenomenal family. Took care of me, helped me out. So I got to DC, spent the night in the hotel, got on the plane, went to Frankfurt, Germany, played the spring of 2000 in Frankfurt, Germany. Came back. Matter of fact, I missed the fall of 2000. The fall of 2000, I was at Lord Bartertown as an assistant with Tony Hart. He gave me my first coaching job, and then the spring of 2001 is when I went to NFL Europe. Okay, so came back.
What team did you play for? Who was the head coach?
Man,
I just know Coach Allen's son was one of the coaches over there. I think he was Frankfurt.
I think Dick Curl was the head coach. Dick Curl. I know Larry Allen coached. He was a DB coach. I think Dick Curl was the coach at the time. So I was over there with Haygood. All right. Haygood played with us at Virginia Tech. So he was the guy that was over there. So I had some people over there that I knew. And that helped out a lot. So I went over there, and I think that was the spring of 2001. And then the fall of 2001, I came back if I'm not mistaken. I mean, all the dates are running together. And then I went back to GA at Virginia Tech and coached a little high school ball. Coach Gentry called me and said, "Hey man, would you like to come back and work on finish up your masters?" And I did in the fall of 2001. So I think, all these things kind of running together a little bit, but that's what I did when I got out of school. Coach high school ball, went to NFL Europe, came back, GA with Coach Gentry, finished my master's degree, and I met this girl that I knew I was going to marry, so I had to get a job. Brandon Simonis was working, Brandon Simonis, his wife, was working at a school. I had an education degree.
Simonis was a linebacker?
He was a linebacker. I had an education degree. He left. The people told me, they said, "Hey, we'll give you the job." All right. And they said, "Do you coach girls track?" And I said, "No, I don't coach girls track." They were like, they said, "Wait a minute. You want the job, right?" I was like, "Yeah." They said, "But you coach girls track then, right?" And I was like, I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Oh, yeah, I coach girls track."
Yeah, pretty
so
much.
They gave me the job. So, but there was no football position for me at Glenver High School.
Wow.
Right?
You coached at Glenver?
I coached girls track
God
at Glenver.
bless you, man. God bless you.
And then
that's on the side of a mountain.
It is.
And then, man,
I did football.
What year was this?
This was 2002. I coached
Lee
football.
Johnson was head coach?
I'm not sure. He might have been. And that's my dad's name, by the way, Lee Johnson.
Wow, great name.
But I was coaching football at Lower Bartertown, girls track.
I mean, you're a kid from Miami, Florida, and you're on the side of a mountain in Glenver.
Man,
I mean, what is that like?
I loved it. The people were great. The girls were great. Hey, Troy, they when I mean worked extremely hard. When I mean worked extremely hard, man, they worked extremely hard to do the things that I asked them to do. You know what I mean? They just were great.
So they were your perfect players. I mean, they just went above and beyond.
And I think girls track or girls period, when they play sports, they just do a phenomenal job, man, of just, you know what I mean, paying attention, listening.
Being coachable, listening.
Yeah, absolutely right. They didn't have any egos. They just were, man, they were phenomenal.
Let me ask you about this, because I've done 180 of these podcasts, and I said it earlier, the greatest coaches, it's like a head fake. They're teaching you football, but really they're teaching you something else. They're teaching you about life. You had your childhood dreams to play in the NFL. And we realize as coaches that it's even more rewarding helping others achieve their dreams. Listening is something I used to never do. It's something I thought people just wanted to answer. And sometimes people just want to listen. And whenever somebody mentions this name, my ears perk up. Bill Belichick. And if I ever meet anybody that knows him, I'd say, tell me three things. The first thing, he's the best listener of all time. He listens to everybody. If you have any information, he'll listen. He might not use it. And then he gives it to you how it is. He don't cookie cut it. It is what it is. And this is what he thinks. Boom. I mean, he don't play around. Those are the three things.
Right.
Listening. Is that something that coaches should look for in players? And like we have, like in my classroom, don't talk when I'm talking. Stay in your seat and keep your hands and feet to yourself. There you go. Kindergarten to college.
Yeah.
If you're talking, you can't listen. So how do you coach listening, and how important is listening?
Oh, I mean, it's a revolving door. We talk about it on a regular basis. I think the good Lord above gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you can do twice as much listening as you do talking, right? So, focus on me. This is something I learned from Lee Johnson very early in life. Look people in the eyes, right? Don't talk while they're talking. You already said it.
Right? That's basic.
I mean, and now at this point in time in my life, like I write things down. I mean, I'm writing everything down. If I hear it and I like it, I write it down. That way,
we're documenting history right here now.
Yeah,
we're documenting history.
Be an active listener. Be an active listener, right?
What does that mean?
Take notes, right? Listen. Your body language says that you are paying attention. I mean, we're adults, and any young kid watching this, if my wife is not happy with something that I'm doing and she's telling me about it, I mean, I can show her that I'm actively listening, right? I can be engaged, lean forward and listen to what she's saying, or I can kind of turn my head to the side, you know what I mean? It's not the right thing to do. Like, be an active listener. And I've done that. Right? I'm not perfect. I've done it, but to be better at it, like I asked the young men that I'm coaching, hey, don't put your head down. Stop moving, taking your shoulder pads off when I'm talking. Like, look at me. And I learned this is something else I learned from Coach Beamer. He always had shades on, and he would put his face in the sun and the player's back to the sun. So everybody can lift their head up and they can look you in your eyes when you're talking, right? Nobody has to say, man, the sun is in my eyes, I can't see, or put your head down because it's too bright. The sun would always be.
That's a little thing, but I mean, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, it was something little, but I learned that, and I use it with my team. You know, behind the line, don't stop moving. Don't take your shoulder pads off. Stop taking your tape off. Like, you're not listening if you're doing those things. Your mind is preoccupied with something else. So that's how we teach the listening part of it in our program. And then we ask them to respond to questions that we have, or things that we talked about, or something that may be relevant to the program. Like, what did we say?
Right? Yeah, you're assessing their learning.
That's correct. And just like in the classroom, and we always say constant review is a student's glue, right? So what time should we be here? 3 o'clock. What time? 3 o'clock. What time, everybody, should we be here? 3 o'clock. Like, we're repeating it. Everybody's saying it out loud, so nobody makes a mistake of where they need to be and what they need to do.
Man, James Hubbard. J-Hub is the only guy. Listen to this.
All right.
He's got a tattoo that says Meadowbrook versus Petersburg for life.
Hey, that's good right. James. Good.
If you ever see a white guy from Petersburg, that's James Hubbard. He's my good friend. He's back coaching at Meadowbrook. James Hubbard, Meadowbrook, MBK versus PHS, and Meadowbrook colors, and that's a rivalry. You're talking about writing things down. Would you ever do a book, Coach Johnson? Well, we're doing better than a book. We're doing the best podcast ever today. All right. But talk about that. Would you write it down?
Yeah, James, let me tell you something. I've written down so many notes. I'm on my phone doing this conversation, so I'm trying to keep, but on my phone, I have so many notes, and I've emailed them to myself. Yes. I mean, getting started, of course, the time to get started is the key, when you're in the season and when you're dealing with life and stuff like that. But yes, I've thought about it. I've talked about it. I've had people call me about it. It's something that I am going to do at some point in time. I think I'm biased. I think my life, it will be a great movie one day. But you know what I mean? Who knows? You're talking about another football movie, but there's some different parts of it that can help people. I think, even if I don't write a book, Hubbard, I'm just going to tell everybody about it in formats like this.
Yeah, no doubt. So, when you get your first shot to be head coach, how did you get the Stonewall Jackson job?
This is a great story. Great.
We're putting it all out there for everybody today.
There we go. So
here you go. Your brother got a comment. Dick Curl was the head coach of the Frankfurt Galaxy in 2000 when Coach Johnson was in Europe. So you're right. You hit it.
Got Dick Curl. Yeah. So that's good. My mind is still sane. I still have the same mind. Let me tell you this. So when I was at, this is for every young coach. In 2002, when I was at Lower Bartertot, I had a situation that happened on the field with a guy named Chris Robinson. I think that he was the head coach. And I walked off the sideline. Some stuff happened. I could have dealt with it, but I walked off the sideline. And he basically told me, don't come back. This is middle of the season. We're playing Allegheny. It's a long story, but and people said I had the right to. Some people said I don't, but whatever. I walked off the sideline. It happened. I walked off the sideline, and they basically felt like I quit on the kids. But I think it was more the adults than it was the kids.
How old are you?
21, 22.
Wow.
22,
you're young, man.
Yeah. So I walked off the sideline, and I made a mistake. So young coaches, no matter how bad it is, do not walk off the sideline, right? That is the impression of that for everybody is negative. Okay. And I lost really, really good friends because of that. Okay.
Wow.
But it was my own doing.
I gotta say something, man, because
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you're the most successful coach in Virginia. You got 5 state championships, and you're admitting that you did something wrong that you didn't even have to bring up. And dude, that means something to me. Like I told you, what we're doing today is special. All right. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Troy, I'm not perfect, right?
Oh,
And
neither am I. You know me.
Yeah. But there's a young guy, Troy, there's a young guy younger than us.
Yes.
That's gonna go through something this year, right? And he's gonna have to make a decision. Okay, I'm gonna ride this out and talk to the coaches afterwards, which is hard, or I'm gonna walk away, right? I walked away, right? And that's a whole nother podcast, but I walked away. And then I called the coach back. I talked to him. He said, I don't want you to come back. And he had every right to do that. And then I was sitting in my office as a marketing teacher at Glenville High School. And there was somebody slid a piece of paper under the door in the office that I had, the office that I built for myself and Miss Hooker. All right. It was a storage closet. Yeah. We put carpet in it. We did a good job, man. We had a great time. Miss Hooker and her husband coached football at Salem for years. What happened was somebody slid the paper under my door. My door was closed, slid the paper on the door. 2 positions had opened up in 2000, the end of 2002 season that they were hiring for the 2003 season. The first one was Stonewall Jackson. They had gone 0-10. And the other one was Dinwiddie High School.
Coach Curry left.
Yes. Now listen, my wife was interviewing at the time at University of Richmond. She didn't get the job. She was over there interviewing. And I thought I had the job at Dinwiddie. I thought it was mine to turn down. I really did. They went in a different direction. This was the guy before Billy Mills. Yes. They went in a different direction.
A guy that didn't win nothing.
So if they go with Loren Johnson, it may not be any Billy Mills. You never know. You never know. I'm just joking, Billy. Just joking.
Yeah. But did you know I got like 50,000 views on that with Billy Mills?
That's it, because he's man.
It's like, I mean, Highland Springs people, like, who's the best coach you ever coached against? Troy Taylor, because he steals all my signals. I mean, I was sitting on the other side of the camera. He knew I was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a joke, man. It's all right. Highland Springs fans, everybody knows Coach Johnson got 5 state championships. That was a joke. All right.
So I didn't get the job at Dinwiddie, of course. Then I'm driving to Stonewall Jackson. Of course, I got the job there. But when I was there, the team, the principal was doing this. I mean, he was looking around, no interest in what I was saying at all. And during the interview, I said to myself, I know I don't have this job. Like I know I don't have it.
Yeah.
All right. So I just put my best foot forward. Like regardless of people's reactions, regardless of what people say, regardless of what they do, put your best foot forward, young coach. Like young man, young lady, like regardless of what's being said, put your best foot forward. Don't worry about what they're doing. They don't control the situation. They're merely just there. Especially if you're a believer, they are just there.
Yes.
They're not in control of the situation.
Yes.
And at 22 years old, I got in the car, just said, hey man, I did my best. So halfway home to Salem, Virginia, because I'm leaving Manassas on 81, going back to Salem, I get a call and they say, hey, would you come back for your second interview?
That day?
That day. Not come back that day, but like, can you come back like in a day or two? So this girl that I was dating that I ended up marrying, she helped me with a hotel room. My dad helped me with some clothes. My dad helped me, let me go to JCPenney's, let me buy some clothes.
Great store. Is it still around?
Some places, yeah. There's one in Highland Springs. There's one in Highland Springs. So I go to Penny's, I get some slacks, a shirt. I wore the same shoes that I had on, and I go in for my second interview. And I'm driving home. I get all the way home after the second interview. I get to the house. They called me and asked me, do I want the job? I took the job. So I was still 22. So I got married. Check this out. and young guys don't do this. I got married August 2nd of 2003. We started football probably August 9th, a week later, right? Brand new life, brand new wife, brand new football team. The team had going 0-10, trying to build that thing up as best and as fast as we possibly could. And then later on, before I left there in 2007, the year before I left, we had a son that was born on August 3rd. So I got August 2nd, August 3rd, and then, we always had started football. So that's kind of the deal there. And working through that process, I had Chris Garrett, who went on to win the Grey Cup in Canada. He was a running back, went to Ohio University. I had Ryan Williams, that was drafted, I think, 36 in the second round. He was 36 overall, the second pick in the second round. And then I had Damian Thigpen, who won the 300-meter hurdles 3 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, in the state of Virginia. That went to UCLA and went to Arizona Cardinals for a little bit as well. So I had those three running backs with some other great high school football players. Josh Baird, who's a pastor in Warrenton. A couple guys that works for the Secret Service right now. Don't want to say their names, but they work for the Secret Service.
Yeah,
right. So we had these phenomenal kids that we kept pouring into. And then I kind of knew, my purpose for being there was to help build that program, but also build the men that were there. Those guys now are fathers. They're calling me, telling me about their children. They're getting engaged, or some of them remarried. A plethora of guys that are going on and things that we talk about. Guys do great at day trading, work on computers. There's guys that live in this area that do really, really well financially because of the IT stuff that they learned when they were in Northern Virginia. And then it just came down to, it was just time to go. It had run its course, after 5 years at Stonewall Jackson, and it just needed a change. And when I applied for the job at Highland Springs, or when I inquired about the job at Highland Springs, Rudy Ward told me he already had his guy. He told me he knew who he was going to hire.
Really? Did he ever tell you who it was?
He never told me who it was. I never asked.
Wow. I would now. Who is this guy that you wanted more, Rudy?
Let me tell you this. I think it was Bedwell. Now, Bedwell's never said that, but I think it was Bedwell. But again, I went into the interview. Before even the interview, I never put an application in. And, somebody called me and said, hey, did you put your application in for the Highland Springs job? And I said, they told me they already knew who they had. And they were like, that's not putting your best foot forward. You tell us to put your best foot forward. So I applied. And when I applied, I interviewed. And, before I left the interview, they were like, if you want the job, it's yours. Nobody interviewed like you interviewed. So that was the start of it in 2008. And I'm telling you right now, it was the hardest season I ever had. The hardest season.
Wow. Because I remember when you took the job, they had a video of you talking in the cafeteria, and you talked about, you were kind of in culture shock up there in Manassas. I mean, heck, I'd be in culture shock. I don't leave Route 10.
It was just different.
With the band, being different than you were used to, in Miramar and South Florida. And so talk a little bit about that. And, why was it your hardest season?
Well, let me go back to the culture shock. The culture shock really was, I had never been around teams that had been 0-10.
Yeah.
Right? That's hard, right?
Man.
You gotta have everything in order. You got to be in place. Now they're seeking for something new. They want something new, but in that process of wanting something new, not all of them know how to get it, Troy. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. I'm moving again so I don't lose.
They don't know the work that it takes, and the time.
Right. So since they don't know that, you know what I mean? You lose a little bit, right? So you say something, the kid second guess you. Okay. You put something in, you implement a play, it doesn't work. They talk to you about what the old coach did. Coming from. So, and I used to have to go back and say, like, no disrespect Jimmy Powell, right? That's who the coach was. No disrespect to Coach Powell, but that way didn't work for you last year. So just try something new, right? Try new, and that was a little bit of a turn. And to be able to get a guy like Chris Garrett there, well, he was already there, but to get him to stay there, right? Because schools are close in Manassas, like they're really, really close. You know, you think you're close right now to some guys, and I think I'm close to the school down the street, Verona, but like those schools are 2 miles close, you know, on top of each other with 3,000 kids in each building. So, you know, changing the school. So keeping Chris Garrett there, that helped. And then, you know, the first year we went 2-8. Second year we went 8-2. 10-2 actually, lost in the second round of the playoffs. And then, you know, we just kind of got things rolling from there. And we were able to just have some successful seasons while I was there. You know, not always great, but definitely a step above where they had dropped to. Because when Coach Powell was there in the, you know, in the 70s, Coach Powell got the job in 77. That's the year I was born.
Yeah, I was born in 78.
So I replaced the guy that had been there 23 years at that point in time. Okay. So he had some really, really great seasons. And then toward the end, it just kind of fell off a little bit. But he wasn't a bad coach. It was just time to go.
Yeah.
So changing that culture was hard. And it took a lot of spaghetti dinners. It took a lot of hanging out with kids. It took a lot of bus trips. It took a lot of camaraderie building. And I can remember them saying one time coming back on a bus, you know, the kids had made up a chant, we never going 2-8 again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And during my tenure, you know, we never went 2-8 again. So that was the deals. But in 2008, when I got the job, man, at Highland Springs, it was something that I was used to, I was accustomed to. The kids looked like me in terms of race and ethnicity. The environment was something that I was familiar with in terms of South Florida and Richmond. So I could relate to it. I had a lot that I could give. And I wanted to be there, and I wanted to help out as much as I possibly could. The hard part was there were some things that I did not know about, that nobody talked about, that you had to figure out on your own.
I mean,
right?
but that's like on a first date.
Yep.
I mean, you ain't going to tell her everything. Like Coach Gary Chilcote told me, God rest his soul. And he was a good man. And he's a good mentor to you. He said, Troy, don't talk too much. Like that was his advice to me on interviewing. Right. You talk too much, eventually you're going to say something they don't like. So you didn't know everything. And I mean, Scott Burton had been the head coach. I mean, they had been successful. They didn't have the success like you've had. But, I mean, he put people in All-American games. They had Macho Harris. I mean, they had it rolling over there. I mean, so you inherited coaches. I mean,
tough.
Talk about that. I mean, you were.
Let me say this, and I there were some guys. People will tell you when you take a job, get rid of the entire staff. I think in some instances that is true. In some instances, it is not. All right. You know, you got to know some people. If you don't know anybody, sometimes you got to rock with what you got, right? But you got to be diligent, and you got to be very specific and tell them what you want. Don't allow them to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know where I'm coming from? You got to make sure you specifically tell them, and you got to be able to deal with it. And
I mean, how old were you?
When I got to
2008, so you were born 77, you were 31?
31, 32. Yeah, that season I started, I was 32. So, I mean.
So what would you have done differently? If you could go back and do it again, not saying that I mean, I guess you must have already told me that you would have communicated better.
Yeah, I would have explained to people more. You know what? When I first got here, to be honest with you, I would have called the offense and the defense. I would have did it that way. And that's no slight to Glasgow. I'm just telling you, when I go back and I think about it. So both sides of the ball have my mentality.
One voice.
Head coach. Huh?
One voice.
Yeah.
Like Billy Mills. I mean, you don't get confused at Dinwiddie because he's the one voice.
That's correct.
And if you coach what he says.
That's right.
So
there's no
mixed messages.
It's no mixed message at all. You know what I mean? And that's something that I would do differently. I would have talked more. I'm talking more now than I did then, meaning with the players, spending more time with the players, getting to know them better. I'm a lot better at that now than I was then.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, the same thing was when I went to Bird. I mean, I inherited coach's staff.
Yep.
And everybody kept saying, Troy, when are you going to be the head coach? When are you going to be the head coach? Well, it's hard to be the head coach when you got offensive coordinator, defense coordinator. You got a guy that's been here 20 years. This guy's been here 20 years. They have their way they do things. You know, at Meadowbrook, I was the one voice. I mean, I coached everything. And,
and that's not bad, Troy. That's not bad to have guys that have been around and they know the dynamic of what's going on.
Yeah.
But you really got to have a heart-to-heart with those individuals and make sure that everybody is on the same page.
Communication.
You know coming from? Communicate. Again, we've talked about it several times, and you have to have balance, right? I would have better balance in terms of not football balance, life balance. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it, and then be balanced with it. You know what I mean? So you don't have situations where guys are feeling like, they can't with their spouses. And I think when I first came in, it was made to feel that way from some of the guys on the previous staff. Like, can we do this? Yeah, like you can do that. But again, be very detailed with what you're asking and what you want people to do.
I'm putting myself back in your shoes when you took that job and who you inherited in that staff. And I mean, did you have, I don't even know if this is a correct saying now, but was there too many Chiefs and not enough Indians?
No. It was one Chief. Okay. But what I would say is everybody's philosophies and ideas were not the same.
Okay.
You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Because y'all changed a lot. Right. I mean, you beat me in the wing tee one year. Yep. But now when we play you, I mean, I was ready for 2-point pass.
Right.
But we didn't stop it.
Right.
We practiced that junk all week.
Yeah.
And they said, Troy, he hasn't ran that all year. I said, well, he ran it 5 times against me at Meadowbrook in one game. You're going to see 2-point pass. Like when we fumbled the ball with 4 seconds left, everybody was shocked. But like, I don't know, man. We
you just got
history. You're competitors, man.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. Like any young coach, any young head coach that's out there, you got to make sure you write down what you want, hold people accountable to what you want, right? And follow through with what you want. Because they never say, if I'm Troy's assistant, they never say, well, we don't like the way the program going, we firing Loren. Now they can say, we don't like the way the program's going, we firing Troy. And if I'm the head coach, right, and Troy's the assistant, they don't come in and say vice versa. I don't like the way things going. Troy, you got to go. No, they going to say, we don't like the way things going. Loren, you got to go, right? So if it's the music in the weight room, or if it's how we dress on the sideline, if it's the executing the play a particular way, you know what I mean? You move forward. Now I'm 15 years in the same building, right? 10 years in or 11 years in with just about the same staff. When we meet this evening, it'll be a fast meeting. You know what I mean? The majority of the meetings,
because they're on the same page. They're one of you, OOU. They're one of you. They're one of your tribe. Yeah, the guys that you inherited weren't. They were not all of your tribe.
Not all of them. Some of them were. Some of them are great coaches.
Yes.
Right? They are phenomenal men, right? And they're great coaches. But again, all of us did not have the same philosophy.
Yeah, so go through like 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, go through that time period and what occurred and what changed.
Okay, so
because there were 7 years there, right? Before there was the first state championship.
So 08 and 09.
08 was your hardest year?
08 was my hardest year. and not necessarily win. It has nothing to do with wins and losses. It has nothing to do with wins and losses. 08 was, we doing it. It's hard because people don't believe it. Kids don't see it. This is not what Coach Burton did.
Yeah.
This is not what we used to do. This is not what, it went back to that first year that I was at Stonewall Jackson.
But it's harder because they actually had one.
That's correct.
It's hard to go from good to great. I mean,
that's correct.
When
that's
you're really,
correct.
really bad, you can make it to good.
Easy.
But it's hard when it's good to great.
Yeah, and they were like,
here's the book.
It was always second guessing.
Yeah.
It was always second guessing. Okay. And I think some adults in the building, football program, outside the football program, I think it's the same with kids, right? On the team. 09 got a little better. The worst season that we had, we went over the Bird and they dropped the hammer on us. DJ Johnson was a freshman. So that might have been 11. I mean, they
yeah. So I mean, DJ becoming the quarterback. I mean, you took the bullet, and he was a freshman, and he was your 4-year starter, and pretty much that might have been the turning point. I mean, I think just from the outside, DJ becoming the quarterback.
Let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
People said to me, Troy, "You're gonna start a freshman at Highland Springs? You must be crazy,
man."
Well, the guy that should have been the starter, he decided during tour days to go school shopping and miss practices.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
I couldn't honor that. You can never sacrifice the integrity of the football program for one individual.
I think you beat me. Was that the year you beat me like 2-0? We threw the ball all the time at Meadowbrook?
I
think it was. I think DJ was a freshman, man.
Yeah, DJ was a freshman.
He was a wing T, and y'all ran just a jet sweep or like a whatever it is, a fly sweep.
Yes.
And numbers gone.
Yes.
Too fast.
So that was 11, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. 12, 13, we had the school district redraw the lines in 13. And in 14, we had a lot of kids transfer out when we lost a coach. Right? So we lost a coach.
That was when Coach Glasgow went to Henrico, right?
That's right. And we had a lot of kids go with him to Henrico.
Yeah, and that's when you had the two kids. You had the Taylor kid, and then you had the kid. I guess he's the coach of Henrico now, Holmes, right?
Holmes, he finished. Holmes finished in 9.
So it was the H-back, and it was the fast kid.
Jerome Taylor ended up going to Virginia Tech. We had Marcus Taylor. We had Felton Davis. Jawan Carter was a sophomore, and we just were young. And we played Bird again in 14. We played. Let me tell you this: DJ's last year, 13. We played Hermitage here, and we lost to Hermitage. We went 9-3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. 14. We were the number 1 seed. You had us on the ropes, and we went Greg Dortch on you.
Man, dude.
Yep.
Dude, you know what was so liberating about that game? When I got kicked out against Thomas Dale that year, I knew I was done. I went into my office after I got kicked out of the game wrongfully. These guys kicked me out of the game because I got one 15-yard penalty. I mean, because my foot was on the field. But I went in my office and my dad came in there, and I said, I'm done. I just knew it. So dude, either we were gonna beat y'all or we were gonna lose to y'all, and I was gone.
Yeah,
so it's kind of liberating. You ain't got nothing to worry about.
Right.
If I win, then we're playing Bird, and if I lose, it's gonna be a heck of a fight.
Yep, and
we went up. But when Greg Dortch is the 4th best receiver on your team, it's hard to stop him in man free.
Listen.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. That's a whole other thing. I don't know if we're gonna get to it today or not, but you talking about the recruiting piece. That's what I try to explain to people. Greg was the 4th receiver on that team. And
I know he beat me.
He came to the huddle and he said, "Man, throw me the ball." That's what he told. That's all he said. Throw me the ball. And wasn't disrespectful. Wasn't nasty. He was like, just give me the ball. And we threw it up to him. He came down with it. And, Greg Dortch is Greg Dortch. But
he's playing in the NFL.
That's
and he looks like a guy that's walking down the street right now.
That's
and,
correct.
I mean, he's just got the heart of a
Three
champion.
lions. The heart of three lions.
Yes. He was the best high school player in Virginia his senior year.
Absolutely. And the guy that argued that is Kayvon, but Kayvon Wallace. So 14.
Well, he was the second best, I guess.
Heck,
they're both in the NFL.
They're both in the NFL. So
they're getting paid. I should make a video about that. I might get a lot of views.
You will.
Who's better, Dortch or Kayvon?
At 14, we had 5 turnovers. Bedwell beats us, and he wins his third.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got back into workouts, like we were sick that night because we felt like we knew what Bedwell was gonna do. We everybody knows, but we knew what he was gonna do. We knew how we were gonna kick the ball off. We knew when they were gonna throw the ball on the wheel route. We kind of knew it all. Like we had the game plan ready to go, but we didn't execute. And there were a couple seniors in that group that were like, it don't matter. I'm gonna play college football next year anyway. And that was the turning point. When those juniors and sophomores and freshmen heard that, they didn't agree with that. They didn't agree with it, Troy. And,
it makes me think of something.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a quote that I heard recently.
Go ahead.
There's not one kid that would pick winning a state championship over a D1 scholarship. I mean, dude, by the time they get to their junior year, they probably know whether they're going to get a Division I scholarship.
Yeah.
Dude, and I got some guys that were in Meadowbrook, and they didn't even want to go to college. And they still got a state championship, and they wouldn't change that for nothing. So what's your feeling on that? I mean, I asked the guy from Cardinal Gibbons. He said it's anti-football because football is a team game. It's not an individual sport. So you got 5 state championships, and you got guys in the NFL. I mean, can you do both? What's your feelings on that?
You got to do both. And I heard Mickey Matthews say this one time. He was talking to me when I was interviewing for a job at James Madison University. Mickey Matthews said that. He said, Loren, he said, if everybody does what they're supposed to do, everybody will get what they want.
Yeah, help. It's what we're talking about right now. Help others get what they want, and you'll get what you want. It's not about your childhood dreams. It's about helping others achieve their dreams. Help people get what they want, and you'll get everything you want.
Absolutely right. And then that goes back to what Frank Beamer said. Hey, treat people the way you want to be treated. It goes back to what my dad said. If you're going to do something, be the best. Right? So we're in a situation where here we tell them, and I'm telling everybody this, the longer you play, the more coaches come watch you practice.
Yeah.
The longer you play, the more they come watch you practice. So if you are playing,
how many?
It's only 2 teams. If it's only 2 teams practicing in the state on each level, right? We got division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means it's 12 teams playing, right? 12 teams practicing.
Yeah.
If it's only 12 teams practicing, more coaches can come see you. If there's 24 teams practicing, they can get to 24 schools, right? If it's 48 teams playing, some they hit or miss. The more you play, the more you have an opportunity to go to school. And I think Kayvon's story has helped us here at Highland Springs.
He didn't even start as a junior on the team that beat me.
Yeah, he didn't start.
He wasn't even the guy plays for the Eagles wasn't the 5th best. He was the 5th best receiver.
And he had 1 scholarship offer. 1
Cincinnati.
His entire senior year. And before signing day, he had 15 scholarship offers based on his play from his senior year. Kayvon and I were in church, and I leaned over to him. My wife can attest to this. I leaned over to him and I said, God told me to tell you to be patient.
That's a word you keep saying. Patient. Patience.
Yeah, man. It's everybody's story is not your story.
Ooh.
It's not. I used to look at coaches and be like, man, they got all these championships. that wasn't my story. You understand where I'm coming from? I would look at how Troy. Honestly,
I know where you're coming from, dude.
I used to look
I went 9-1 2 out of 3 years and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I used to look at other coaches and say, man, they won a championship in 3 years. They win a championship in 2 years. Sorry, it's light again.
That's
They won
all
a
right.
championship in 2 years, right? They win a championship in 3 years. You know, I used to do that when I was a young coach.
Yeah, I know.
Troy, you know, 5-6 years ago, I used to get on Football Scoop and look at all the open jobs and just be scrolling through the open jobs. And then I said to myself, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it and fertilize it and tend to it. So if you just tend to your business, if you tend and do what you're supposed to do, cut your grass, you know, pick your clippings up. My wife sent me a Instagram post on somebody. Do you mulch the grass? Do you leave the dead grass on there, or do you put it in the bag? Like, if you just tend to your own grass, your grass will be greener if you take care of your grass. My grass is not Meadowbrook. My grass is not Thomasdale. It's not Manchester. It's not, you know, Elsie Bird. It's not Life Christian Academy. It's not Huguenot. It's not. My grass is Highland Springs. So I have people ask me all the time, how good is such and such? I have to go ask somebody else how good somebody is so I can help with recruiting in the area. Like, I got coaches that do that because I don't have time to tend to their team. I got to tend to my team.
Yeah. And you only know the people on your schedule. I mean, you know, you're studying Miramar right now.
That's it.
I mean,
me and Christian, I don't know if Christian's still watching, but me and Christian were watching that film before we got on the video with you. So I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do it because if we're talking about balance, if we're talking about, you know, listening, if we're talking about those things, Troy, then I got to do that here first. I got to take care of my coaches, their families.
It's what's important now.
And
it's on the pail. It's on the lunch pail. What's important now? It's not, oh, I'm got to win a state championship. It's what do you got to do today? It's the weight room. It's the doing what you're supposed to do. And we got all kinds of, I mean, Christian Martin. Yep. You got a great coach, and he's got to figure it out, man. This is it. I mean, Nick Saban, like, focus on the process. Bill Walsh, don't worry about the scoreboard. The scoreboard will take care of itself.
Right. When you talk about the process, Troy, this is something that I share. This is something I share on a regular basis with our kids. And every young coach.
Can you believe that a kid is watching this? Christian Martin has watched every second.
Hey,
Christian, we get ready to head fake you. Yeah. This is the greatest coaches podcast of all time.
So watch this, Troy. I truly believe that playing football is like Thanksgiving dinner. It truly is. When I watch my wife or even my dad, because my dad cooked Thanksgiving dinner when I was growing up. But when I watch my wife and her family prepare Thanksgiving dinner, like you're buying a turkey sometimes 2 weeks in advance, right?
You know, they get ready for that junk.
You know what I'm saying?
They get macaroni out the box.
No, yeah, like
they get ready.
It's weeks. It's a week. It's 2 weeks process for one meal. You see what I'm coming from?
Yeah, it's a process.
You know, go get the big jug out the closet so we can have it. Go get the deep fryer so we can, like, you're preparing, like you're getting all your utensils, you're getting all your vegetables, you're getting your turkey, your ham, whatever you're eating, your meat, you're getting your macaroni and cheese, your vegan macaroni and cheese. I've had that for, like, whatever you're doing, your sweet potato pies, you're putting your orders in.
Yeah.
Like, you're prepping. You prep. A microwave dinner, you just poke some holes in it, throw it in the microwave for a couple minutes. I ask them all the time, what would you prefer? A microwave dinner or Thanksgiving dinner? Because Thanksgiving dinner takes time. It's a process. You know what I'm saying? Listen, a Thanksgiving dinner is it fills you up. You get 2, 3, 4 plates, like multiple people can eat off of it because it's a process. Microwave dinner, you the one hungry man. You're done. Salisbury steak, bad potatoes. Potatoes might be cold in the middle. The mixed vegetables still might be frozen. It's nothing. Troy, it's nothing to it. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, you know, the process, Nick Saban talks about it. I think kids have to always believe in it. You got to believe in your coach. I think, you know, the young high school coach, it doesn't take, you may be very fortunate and you might win one the first year. You know what I was very afraid of, Troy, after we won the first one? And I shouldn't have fear, but in my mind, I was thinking it, can you do it again?
You want your second one worse than your first one. Bill Parcells says that because you already got your first one. Correct. So you want the second one more.
Hey, Troy, I'm telling you right now, listen, you here
I'm listening. Year, I got you on here for a reason.
Hey,
all right, I'm not just picking Joe Schmo. All right. George Smith. George Smith was on this one now.
I understand it. Hey, Troy, last year it was last year was tough here for me. Why? Maybe not the coaches, because my son, my oldest son was coming through here.
Yeah, and you were worried about that he won't going to win one?
Yeah. Yeah, here and here every night. Every night. She would ask
Coach
me why
Johnson's son came through and he didn't win one.
Yeah.
He got offered when he was a sophomore. He hadn't even started, you know, so the haters.
Yeah. I mean,
so there's still that self-doubt. There's still that talk.
It's that everyday self-talk. Okay, get up, go through the film, get up, get the schedule ready, get up, move. This is my belief, right? And Tony Hart told me this. He said that was the first guy to hire me to coach, because I was young. I was always at the facility. I wasn't married. I was just moving back and forth. Man, I was just having a ball, spray painting equipment, changing the look of it, painting walls, whatever, washing clothes. Whatever I can do, sleeping in the field house, like loving it. Okay. And he said this. He said, "Man, you here early, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What time you go home last night?" I said, "Probably midnight, 1 o'clock." And I was driving from Botetourt to Blacksburg, 40-minute drive. Okay. He said, "Man," he said, "You know what I always thought about?" I said, "What?" He said, "A dream will wake you up early and keep you up late." And last year, up early, going to bed late. I mean, I go to bed late on a regular basis, or I wake up in the middle of the night and work, right? My brother taught me that. Like, be balanced, spend time with your family, then get up in the middle of the night and work. It's not as often as it used to be, but it still happens. Troy, that dream of my son winning a state championship woke me up and put me to bed late. You understand where I'm coming from? The desire to want to be the best football coach on the East Coast, that wakes me up and puts me down late. And I know it's not all about winning games. It's about how you help people and how you develop people, and our men becoming leaders, you know, under your tutelage, like, is your branch widening out, right? To live forever. I told my dad he'll live forever. And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Everything you've ever taught me, I'm teaching to everybody I can. And I hope they teach it to their kids." We got kids coming back in the program to say, "Hey, man, thank you, coaches. Zackees Triplet." Guys, you guys will never know who Zackees Triplet is. Football player here, played receiver for us. Graduated from Shenandoah. He's back working at Shenandoah. He sent a message to Coach Puka the other day. "Coach, everything that y'all taught me, I learned. Thank you for being a role model in my life." Another young man, Josh Howell, that I coach in Northern Virginia, just got engaged this weekend. He said, "Hey, man, the being a man and being a husband, I learned it from you." Right? Those things are what you do it for. You understand where I'm coming from? So it's one of those deals where, Troy, it's the process has to be what it is and what we're making it, so you can be better than what we were when we were your age.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought about earlier when you were talking was, you know, the Jay-Z and the Kevin Hart podcast. Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal.
Yep.
He says, if you want to make God laugh, show him your plans. Yeah. Tell him your plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to make him laugh? And then he says, emotional IQ is something they don't teach you in school. And I was like, emotional IQ? I had to look it up. It's basically knowing why you feel, how you feel, why are you mad, why are you sad, why are you happy, and also understanding why others have the feelings that they have, like Jay-Z's dad. wasn't around when he was growing up, and that hurt him. He didn't understand it. He saw his mom and his dad, fighting and arguing, and it bothered him, and he resented it. But then he found out that his brother had been murdered, and the police won't go do nothing about it. So his dad was out every night trying to get the guys that did it, and that messed with him. So it wasn't until he found that out that he came to grips with why his dad won't there. It's an emotional IQ. I mean,
so let me tell you this, Troy. Let me tell you this. So I got a friend / coaching colleague / big brother. His name is Sergeant Robert McKinney. And one of my last couple of years at Stonewall Jackson, he worked with me. He comes to all of our games, playoff games, championship games. He's always around, always pouring into our kids, coaches, programs, stuff like that. He told me one time, he said, man, make sure you let your wife know your fears. And you just answer, like I would always tell her, like, I work hard because I don't want this to happen. Or I do this because I don't want this to happen. And maybe you shouldn't use the word fear, right? But it's because of the emotional IQ. So now you've kind of tied that together for me a little bit. See what I'm learning, right? So you say you learn, I'm learning.
Told you what we're going to do today is special.
Hey, the emotional
it ain't
IQ,
us. It ain't us. It's the Lord.
Right. So
look at us, man. We don't look nothing alike. Dude, we had a war.
Yeah.
We've had many wars.
Yeah.
We've had many battles.
Absolutely.
And I'm the ultimate competitor because I can go over and shake your hand and congratulate you.
Right.
After you chop my head off because I've had it chopped off.
So you're talking about understanding the emotional IQ of kids, right? So
of everybody. Yeah.
The emotional IQ of kids. So, like, do they know why you're upset? My high school coach told me when I first became a coach, he said, hey, when they do good, you got to tell them they do good. And when they do bad, you can't beat them up as much. Different generation. I was like, what? I said, you never did that to me. It's almost like a grandfather talking. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's like a grandfather to my players, even though they've never met him before. When we go to South Florida, hopefully he comes out, he'll meet him.
Oh, he will.
You're talking about the emotional IQ. Like, they have to understand why you're reacting the way that you're reacting. They got to understand why. Whether you're talking about my own boys, hey, why do I say the things and do the things that I do? That's important. If you don't do those things, you don't talk about them.
Here's your brother. I mean?
Yeah.
The secret to success is good leadership, and good leadership is all about making the lives of your team members or workers better. Tony Dungy. What a legend he is, Tony Dungy.
Troy, I'm gonna tell you something. Watch this.
Yeah.
I don't even know if my brother knows this. Like, he just put that on there. My brother probably doesn't even know this, right? But when I was in college in 97, okay, we had a bad year at Virginia Tech. We went 10-2, 7-5. Got mollywopped by North Carolina in the Gator Bowl.
Yeah, I remember.
Right? I was having a terrible season, okay? And a lot of different reasons, stuff like that. My brother would call me. You talking about listening? Okay? My brother would call me, and my brother would be talking, and I would put the phone down while he was talking. I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening. Hey, and that was the worst year of my college career. The worst year, because I wouldn't listen, right? So you're talking about having 2 ears, 1 mouth. Like, I thought I was greater than. That I was too big to listen. Like, I was too big to take guidance. Like, I was too big to pay attention. Then I got home after the season was over, after having a bad season. I got home and he was still doing the same thing. But I had no choice because we were engaged face to face and we were listening. Now, let me tell you something. I'm telling my brother's business, right? So my brother never graduated from college, okay? Very intelligent, never graduated from college. But he started his own business and he was cleaning boats. And he doesn't know this, but I'm going to say this. There was one time we were cleaning boats, and in Miami, when you're in the dock, like when these boats are docked, sometimes you got to clean the boat on a raft, right? Or a float. So he said, come work with me. He said, I'm gonna give you some money, come work with me. This way before NIL money, so it's not like I can make any money, right? Okay, so and I wasn't getting hokey handshakes. Like nobody was like, good job.
Yeah.
Hey, what this ain't, other schools. Like Virginia Tech wasn't doing that. Not for me, by the way. So he said, come work with me. I'll give you a couple dollars, man. You work with me. So we were out there on that float. And he said to me one time, he said, man, you hold your destiny in your own hands. Hot, 95, 98, 99 degrees. He said, you hold your destiny in your own hands. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not thinking about it. We out there again. We're going through the whole day. He said, we out here cleaning boats. We should be owning boats. He said, you got to make sure you change your mindset. Get your mindset right. Mine got to be different. He doesn't realize it. Without that conversation, I don't have the season. I'm not all Big East as a senior in college. He said two sentences, two phrases.
Where did he learn it from? Your dad?
I don't know. He gonna have to put it on the screen. I don't know where.
Yeah, I mean, where did that come from? I mean, because that's like Jay-Z, like
he was
the
like
neighborhood. We own the neighborhood. You know,
correct. He was like,
Dumbo and Dumbo, but I was a Dumbo. I mean,
yeah. So that's like my wife will tell you. Like I've said this to coaches and everything. Like my desire is to own a boat, only because of that conversation. That's where it came from. One. It's not. Hey, it's like he said it. He said we cleaning boats. Like we were on the raft with the wax, with the buffer, the cord, wrapped up, on the dock with the generator. Excuse me. And he was like, he said, you hold your destiny in your hands. And he said, we should not be cleaning boats. We should be owning boats. But what he was saying was your mindset got to be different, man.
Yes.
Stop with the low level mindset. Like, I don't know what he was reading, because he reads a lot. He got me into reading. He doesn't know that. Well, our dad got us into reading. My dad would take me to the bookstore, let me sit down, right? And let me sit in there for hours. I thought my dad was looking for books. I found out later on he was just letting me read.
Wow.
Reading 3, 4, 5 books.
Head fake.
Bernstein Bears. That was my favorite. Bernstein Bears. I mean, I loved it, right? He would let me sit down in the bookstore, in the mall, and he let me read for hours. I thought he was looking for books. He told me later on, nah, I'll just let you read, right? Wow. So my brother, reader, right? I read, you know what I mean? So these are the things that maybe he was reading the book. I don't know. Jermaine, you got to tell us. I don't know what it was, but that's what he was saying. That's what he was doing.
Jermaine, did you think that this podcast was going to be this? Or did you think it was going to be, hey, coach, how'd you win that first state championship?
Yeah, people were looking for something different. They're looking for something different. But, I mean, it's one of those situations where listening, right? I had to become a better listener to become a better coach. Got it? So my wife, when we got married, knew nothing about football. I became a better listener. I became a better coach. My daughter, better listener, better coach. My assistant coaches, I had a coach tell me one time, he doesn't feel a part of the program when he worked outside of the building. Listen, better listener, right? Better coach. You understand where I'm coming from? I'll give you one. Even better. You talking about being a listener, Troy. Fareed Saunders, our JV head football coach.
Great coach.
All right, so watch this. I'll give you one better. Watch this. And many people don't know this, but it's got to be said on this podcast. Fareed said, this was 2015. We playing Hermitage, okay, for the regional championship.
Where at? At Hermitage?
At Highland Springs. 2015. We're practicing this Thanksgiving weekend.
That was the one that Fuente was at.
Yes. A lot of people. Everybody was there.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Actually, he came to Indian River the week before.
Learn from Dad and the choice to be a book reader without being confined to a cell. What's he mean by that? No. Learn from Dad and the choice to be a book reader without being confined. Oh, basically that like Malcolm X, he didn't have a choice.
Right.
He had the dictionary. When he was in the cell, he didn't have no other choice but to be a reader. You become a reader on your own, not because someone forces you to be one. You got it. Go ahead, give me yours, because I'm telling you, and I don't know nothing. I'm the Route 10 coach. Did you know that? I'm the Route 10 coach. I've been the head coach at Meadowbrook. I've been the head coach at Byrd. I'll never be the head coach at Thomas Dale. They'll arrest me if I go to Chester.
So
tell me, is there anything else you need to add to that?
Oh, he'll add it.
Okay. But I got to get him on the podcast. JT, we're going to get you on Life Lessons podcast. I got a YouTube channel.
So listen to this, Troy. So Fareed says on Wednesday, no, maybe even might have even been Tuesday. No, it was Wednesday. He said, Coach, he said, I had a dream, man. He said, I had a dream. I said, what? Listening. He said, we ran the hitch and pitch and we won it. We won the game. I said, what? I said, I was thinking about that. We haven't ran it in a while. Because I was reading the article one time. And the coach from Pennsylvania, he said he practices those things in 7-on-7. Right? He said, because you're not losing anything there.
Yeah. Double passes, hitch and pitches.
Gateway Gators. That was the name of the team in Pennsylvania. So I was reading that article and it came back. So what happened was we did it a couple of times in 7-on-7. We practiced it. It's really cool, fun. Everybody laughed, joke, whatever. But Fareed said, hey, man, I had a dream that we ran the hitch and pitch in practice. In the game, and we won the game. He said, make sure you practice it. Listen it, right? A man who counsels with himself is a fool. Can't counsel by yourself, not when it comes to running the program. The man that counsels with himself is a fool. That's in life. You counsel with yourself. You just make your own decisions. You're a fool. Gotta just listen to what people are saying. So
they did play.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did y'all play? I mean, every time Bird won the state championship, 12, 13, 14. I mean, you played Coach Bedwell.
Yeah.
I mean, in the playoffs, definitely. They did play him.
We played him in 16 too, on our way to our second. So, but what Fareed said, I listened to it. We practiced it. We got into a game. We ran it the first time. The quarterback didn't throw the hitch. We ran it the second time. The quarterback threw the hitch. We won the game. All because Fareed dreamt it. Mm-hmm. He spoke it. I listened. We practiced it. It came to fruition. So I believe what he was saying. You understand what I'm going? You know what I'm saying? Like he spoke it. He spoke it into existence. And then it all worked itself out. So
well, we said we was gonna put it all out there, dude.
Go ahead.
I ran that today.
Did you? Gotta practice it, man.
Never practice it. Never practice it. Ran it today.
Gotta
practice. That's almost say you better really get in the hour and 42 minutes. Yeah. Coach Bill Mountjoy. Yeah. He taught Terry Meeks.
Yeah.
Terry Meeks,
great coach.
That's his go-to. Curl wheel, that's his go-to.
Hey, great concept. So these are the things, man, that you're talking about that make you a little bit different. And then when you've done it a couple of years, I said to a coach recently, coach, like, man, we got to keep some of this stuff to ourselves. Now, let me tell you my philosophy right now. Mm-hmm. I'll tell it all at this point in time. Not because I'm getting ready to finish, but if I tell it to you and you start doing it, it makes me become a better coach. And you
made me a better coach.
You got to be, you got to share the information. And there's no secrets in football. There's no secrets in football. It's all execution, and it's all working on it. I mean, I listen.
The
I
best
go way back.
In the state's going to run it, or the quarterback's going to pull it, or he's going to throw a fast screen to Kai Heath, and then he's going to run the ball. Yeah, or
there's no secrets, man. There's no secrets.
Yeah,
you got to play.
Not that.
Yeah, and it's no arrogance. It's just you got to execute the play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sean, if you don't add it tomorrow, you're a fool. You know where I'm coming from? That's what Sean Sage said. But what else you got, Troy? What else you got?
Hey, man, whatever's on your heart, say it, because I'm getting ready to hit him with the head fake.
I think, you know what, Troy, I mean, I really want to pause and take a moment and talk about, our coaches associations in the area, right, in the state of Virginia. We need to continue on the upward trend. There's a new one, Commonwealth.
How long you been saying this? Since I first met you. And that was, 7? Well, the ratings are going to go down, all right? Because Coach has been disconnected. He will be back because we haven't hit y'all with the head fake yet. All right, so the Coaches Association. So Coach will be back. Trust me, y'all. We got 17 people watching. If you got anything you want to say to Coach Loren Johnson, put it in the comments, and we'll show it to him when he gets back on. His phone might have died. The Henrico County Schools, he couldn't get on the StreamYard link. But, man, we're not done yet. Coach is going to come back. But, man, for y'all to watch this entire time, I don't know what people expected. But, dude, me and that guy have had some wars. My first game as the head coach at Meadowbrook, we played them, and we got lucky and beat them. I called slant flat, and my quarterback, Gerard Johnson, was smart enough to run it. I mean, and it's always been fun. Golly, don't kick the ball to number 7. I remember saying that. And I kicked it right to 7. And Marquise Taylor was banging his head against the field goal post. I mean, man. So, Coach, I might even just call him on his phone. See if we can get him. Gerard Johnson called me. Let me see, Loren. I'll get him to finish on his phone, y'all. Man, we got 20 people waiting for Coach. Lee Mary. Coach Johnson's a great storyteller. He keeps you engaged. It is. He's the best. All right, he's back. Yeah, we had 20 people on here. I said, well, our ratings are really going to go down because now you just look at me. And I just told him, I said, don't kick the ball to number 7. Yeah. When you're up 14-0 to Highland Springs. That's all I told the kicker all week. And what did he do? Kick it right to 7. Marquise Taylor, and he's banging his head up against the field goal post. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the Coaches Association, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, man. I think the Coaches Association, what it does right now is the Commonwealth Coaches Association. I think, even Mike Smith, Virginia High School Coaches Association, I think they're one and the same. And I think one was done, you talking about starting back in 1947. I think I heard Coach say that on your podcast before. And
man, that's humbling, man, that you watch that,
Oh yeah, man. I mean, that's important. I mean, you're talking about somebody that's put a lot into the state of Virginia,
the GOAT, man.
In terms of football. Don't feel like you can do it all by yourself. You can. Man who counsels with himself is a fool. So I think we need to evolve and we need to adapt. And I think the Coaches Association need to bring education to the coaches so they can continue to grow as professionals in this field. All right. I hope at some point in time or another, the value of a high school coach increases. I hope that increases. I really do. Right. And what I mean by that is, no, we don't necessarily need to make Georgia money. Right. But the value of a high school coach is so relevant to a building. Okay. And then the growth and the development of that building that I think more value has to be added to it. And everybody can do that in their own particular way. Every county, every jurisdiction can do that on it in their own different way. Okay. Whatever they seek value. But the professionalism of a high school football coach in the state of Virginia has to increase. We have to grow. We have to get better. We have to communicate. I watch college coaches all the time. Go to the middle of the field, shake hands, talk. Okay. Talk about whatever they talk about, and they move on. And they play a game.
Like me and you.
Myself, I do it with Tom Hall. I do it with a lot of coaches. Okay. But that's just the professionalism of the sport. Because you can't ask a kid to do the same thing and you're not doing it. Now, am I best friends with everybody? No. Me and Tom Hall have a connection. We talk about our daughters. You understand where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. You and I, Troy, we talk about past games or just your connection with Virginia Union and the guys that I got on Virginia Union. Like everybody is something different, right? And we talk about those things. When I go to Northern Virginia, I talk to those guys about life and when I used to be there and people that we know and stuff of that nature. But the professionalism of the sport in the state of Virginia in terms of wanting the job at the college, understanding the college rules, preparing yourself, getting ready to do that if that is what you desire. right? They have different rules on the college level than we have. Compliance rules, right? Recruiting rules. You know what I mean? Those things, if you want to be on that level, you got to learn that stuff before you interview, because there are people already in place that are doing it as graduate assistants so to show yourself that you're worthy of it, or to show the staffs at some of these colleges that you're worthy of receiving that six-figure paycheck or whatever it may be in their program, you got to study and show yourself approved. And if you don't, then you don't get those opportunities. But I think the coaches associations can do that. When the coaches
Man, we've been on here for an hour and 50 minutes with Coach, and we're getting ready to end in the next 10 minutes. We're going to go 2 hours, and just a few things to summarize what he's been teaching. I mean, man, Coach changed lives, and I've always known. Well, I knew he had a great program, but when I started watching Coach's documentary and what they did with those kids and what they talked about when they made that documentary on YouTube, I was like, okay, yeah, I dig it. He's changing lives. He's helping get kids to the next level. He's helping build champions for life. So, when I saw that documentary, when you're coaching against somebody else, you don't really know what they do and say. You just know, the product they put on the field, and they got the best product. So, I mean, me and him, we've had some battles, man, and it's been a pleasure having Coach on, and he's going to come back, all right, because when he came on, I told him, I said, man, this is going to be special what we're going to do today, and it has been. It's been special, this is the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast. We started this because we like football. And, Gerard's calling me, Gerard Johnson. I guess he maybe wants to be a call in. Gerard's, hey man, I'm still on with Coach Johnson. But we've had some technical difficulties. He's getting ready to come on. I'm just gonna keep you on the phone.
Yeah.
I got my guy Gerard Johnson just called me on the phone, and Gerard, remember Gerard, we called 92, 93, whichever one it was, slant flat, and you were smart enough to keep it, and we got lucky and beat them. Well, that was one of the times. I don't even remember. One time with Coble, I can't. It ain't many times I beat the Springers. But, dude, you work so hard to get up the mountain that eventually you become the mountain. That's what Nick Saban says, and you've been the mountain. I mean, dude, when I took the Bird job, all I said was, if we're going to be the man, we're going to have to go to the airport, and we're going to have to play that team at the airport. And I thought after my first year, we were going to get there, but Henrico beat us in the playoffs. And then we got there this year, and we got what we wanted. We played the Springers. And don't get upset when he onside kicks it on you, all right? Because he's got flares, man, and he's trying to score. So, I mean, dude, you become the mountain. And like you said, I remember in 2003, our seniors that were on that bus, they were okay with just making it to the regional championship.
Right.
Just like your guys before they won it, that group that was leaving, they were just okay.
Yeah.
But the next guy's like, we can do this. Gerard, what do you want to say to Coach Johnson? I know, he's been good to you. You visited with him before you took the Caroline job.
Oh, yeah, Coach Johnson been like both of y'all. It's crazy. Both of y'all on there right now. Both have been a big part of, helping me get through my first year as a head coach. Like I said, I tell people all the time, any of my old head coaches that I've been able to talk to, I tell them all the time, I got a lot more respect for you now being in this business. Everything that y'all got to go through. But, I can honestly, truly say that, both of y'all have been a huge part of, between y'all two and Coach Latrell Scott, have been a big part of, and Mr. Just of me getting through my first year, and doing things the way I've done it. I try to mimic a lot of things from, the good ones that I've been around. And I've been lucky enough to have good mentors and good people to put good stuff in my ear. Because, you know, a lot of times you get into this business where people don't want to help, or they tell you got to figure it out on your own because they had to go through those battles, which I still go through my battles, but I think it's a lot.
I mean, we still go through our battles too, Gerard. Yeah. I mean, Coach Johnson, it don't ever stop. It's like being a fireman. I mean, you don't have to look for the fires. They're coming, man. Like, the higher you go up an organization, what did Lou Holt say? The less good stuff you hear and the more bad stuff you're going to hear. So, Gerard, you're the best, man. Anything else you want to say to Coach Jay? We're at an hour and 55 minutes, and Coach's phone keeps cutting off. So I'm going to get him. We're going to get ready to end this thing. Anything?
He know anytime I'm gonna call him, I'm gonna shoot him a text and ask him, "Hey, Coach, you got time?" And if he tell me yeah, I'm gonna call him or whatever. He know at any moment I'm gonna call. So it ain't too much I ain't gonna say. I can say right now that I probably wouldn't ask within the next 2 or 3 days.
That's what it's about. I mean, that's what it's about, man. Ain't it?
Troy, I'm Troy and Gerard. The number one thing is everything that I've been through, he shouldn't have to go through it, right? If we're really talking about grooming somebody to keep the game of football alive, why should he have to go through all of the
learn from other people's mistakes?
That's it, right? So I've made them already. Let's not make Gerard go through the same mistakes that I went through in his process to be, you know what I mean, a great high school football coach. It could be more than one great high school football coach, right? So let's get him on a path to be successful. And he's doing a great job. Caroline's got a steal, and I don't even think they even know it yet.
I don't know. I'm glad I ain't got a coach against Josh Just. I mean, you ain't lost to a team from Hanover in a while.
Yeah.
Since he left, man. I'm glad he ain't coach no more.
and again, so Gerard has Coach Just, right? He can walk down the hallway and see him. He knows he can call me or contact me at any time. I'm pretty sure he could do the same with you. But that's how coaching needs to be, right? So if I give Gerard information and then I got to coach against him, I got to be better. If not, he's going to beat me with the stuff that I gave him. So I got to be better than I am right now every time I give him something. So I'm learning that. I'm learning that later in age. I've had coaches tell me, I've since told them, but I've had coaches in Northern Virginia tell me, "Nah, I can't help you." And I said, "What?" And they said, "Nah, when I'm talking about when I was young, 22, 23, I can't help you." I said, "Man, that's crazy." And they said, "Yeah. No disrespect. I just can't help you. I'm not going to tell you who some of those coaches are, but we've had some games, and I've not lost any of those games."
Man.
Yeah.
So are we ready to hit him with the head fake, Coach?
Let's get it, baby.
Gerard, we did this podcast, and before we started, this is what I told Loren. I showed him an excerpt of Randy Posh's last lecture. Have you ever heard of this, Gerard? I'm sure you have.
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, Randy Posh was a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and they used to have something called the last lecture. And it was hypothetical situation that if it was the last lecture you were ever going to give, what would you teach? But see, his wasn't hypothetical. He was only given a couple months to live. So he talked about a head fake. Like, we teach you about football, we coach you about football, but really it's a head fake because we're teaching you about life. But this podcast was a head fake because y'all think that we're I'm gonna cry, man, because y'all think we're trying to help coaches, and we are, but it's a head fake because we did this for somebody else. And I'm gonna say mine first, dude. When you go play the Springers at the Springers, it ain't no difference than coaching in the Super Bowl. That's what I told my son on that bus, and it ain't. It's 100-yard field. So, Loren, you want to hit him with the head fake? Why we do it, man?
Oh, so like I tell my kids and every kid that I've ever coached, you're playing the kids' game with the king's ransom. And the ransom, I got that from Warren Sapp. The ransom is not necessarily the money at the end of the tunnel, but it could be It could be just the life relationships that you build, right? The long life relationships that you build. And for my boys and for my daughter, it's simply this. Everything that I do, I love you. And because I love you, right, I work extremely hard at it. And the reason I work extremely hard at it is because I'm trying to show you that nothing worth having is given to you. You have to work for it. So we talk about it in the house, like how important legacy is. But the legacy is so important. The last name Johnson is so important, and I want it to be so important when I leave this building that you can come back with your great grandkids and they understand who their great grandfather was, right? Or their great great grandfather was. And that only happens when you continue to pour into people, pour into situations, pour into communities, and then it has the opportunity to live forever. Not as a martyr, not anything like that. I just want Braylon, Brennan, and Kendall to be proud of their dad and understand that the work that's being put into this is something that we want to be able to live on forever. So continue to work just as hard as your dad is working or just as hard as your mom is working so you can move forward in life and be as successful as you want to be. And that's to every kid that I've ever coached. And that's now not a kid anymore, but as a father. Like when things get tough, make sure you continue to put your head down and grind like you did when you were running 110s, like you did when we were out there in tour days, like you did when we were trying to win a ball game my first year at Stonewall Jackson, or like we were trying to do when we were trying to hold off a team in the state championship in 2017. Be men, be strong, be women, be fruitful, and continue to grow as individuals and people.
Yeah. We did this for our kids, man.
Yeah.
It's for you. So you can watch it. Gerard, we love you, man.
Absolutely.
I told you we're going to do the best podcast ever. I'm going to press in, man.